Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. These are the words of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. And in this single, profound sentence, he hands us the key to understanding one of the most mysterious, powerful, and often overwhelming parts of our existence, our emotions. Have you ever felt it? That sense that you are not the one in control. A sudden wave of anger that seems to come from nowhere. A persistent hum of anxiety in a quiet room. A deep sadness that settles over you like a fog with no apparent cause. You react, you push it down, you try to reason with it, but it feels like wrestling with a shadow. And in a way, that's exactly what you're doing. You might tell yourself, this is just who I am. I'm just an anxious person. Or, I've always had a short temper. You call it personality. You call it temperament. You call it fate. But what if it isn't? What if it's simply the unconscious, your own deep, hidden inner world, steering the ship of your life from below deck while you stand at the helm, believing you are the one charting the course? Today, we are not going to talk about suppressing emotions or simply thinking positive. We are going on a much deeper journey, a journey inward, guided by the wisdom of Jungian psychology. We are going to explore the 6 steps to true emotional mastery. This isn't about control in the sense of a king ruling his subjects with an iron fist. This is mastery in the sense of an artist who understands their materials so intimately that they can create something beautiful and meaningful with them. It's about making the unconscious conscious. It's about turning fate into choice. Imagine your inner world is a vast, ancient house. A house that you were born in and have lived in your entire life, but you've only ever stayed in a few brightly lit rooms on the main floor. These are your conscious thoughts, the feelings you understand and accept. But this house has many floors. It has a sprawling attic filled with inherited beliefs and ancestral memories. And it has a deep, dark basement. This is your personal unconscious. Down there are all the things you've ever repressed, forgotten, or refused to acknowledge, the parts of yourself you deemed unacceptable. The painful memories, the untamed desires. This is what Jung famously called the shadow. Most of us are terrified of the basement. We lock the door, maybe even board it up, and pretend it doesn't exist. But the thing about the basement is, it's part of the house. The pipes run through it. The foundation rests in it. And from down there, in the dark, the shadow influences everything. It creaks the floorboards of your moods. It rattles the pipes of your anxieties. It stains the walls of your relationships with resentments you don't understand. The first step to emotional mastery, therefore, is simply to find the key to the basement door. This step is about acknowledging the unseen. It begins with a radical act of honesty. It's the moment you stop saying, "I'm just in a bad mood," and start asking, "What is this feeling, really? Where is it coming from?" It's a shift from being the victim of your emotions to becoming a curious observer of them. Think of a time you overreacted to a seemingly small comment. A friend makes a casual joke about you being late, and you snap back with a defensive anger that surprises even you. The conscious mind, the person in the brightly lit room, says, "They were being rude. I had every right to be angry." But the Jungian approach invites you to pause, to take a breath, and ask a different question. What did that comment touch in the basement? Perhaps it didn't just touch on the minor inconvenience of being late. Perhaps it echoed a much older, deeper story. Maybe it prodded a tender wound from childhood, a time when you were constantly criticized for not being good enough, for always falling short. The anger isn't just about the joke. It's the resurrected pain of a younger self, a shadow part of you that carries the hurt of feeling inadequate. Acknowledging the unseen isn't about blaming your past. It's about recognizing that your emotional reactions today are often echoes from the unhealed rooms of your history. They are messengers from your own personal basement. The goal isn't to exorcise these feelings, but to simply stand at the door, key in hand, and say, "I know you're down there. I'm not going to pretend you don't exist anymore." This initial step is the bravest of all, because it requires you to admit that the house you thought you knew so well holds mysteries. and that you are not entirely master in your own home. Not yet. As you stand at that threshold, you begin to realize the depth of what you're exploring. This journey into your own emotional landscape is one of the most profound you can take. If the idea of understanding these hidden parts of yourself is already sparking a sense of curiosity, a flicker of recognition, then take a moment to subscribe to Mind Decode Explained. We journey through these intricate landscapes of the mind together, exploring the maps left behind by the great pioneers of psychology, so we can all learn to navigate our inner world with more wisdom and compassion. Join our community of explorers, and let's continue this journey together. Now that you have the key and have acknowledged the existence of the basement, the second step is to learn the language of the shadow. The unconscious doesn't speak in plain English or Vietnamese. It communicates through a different, more primal language, the language of symbols, images, dreams, and, most importantly for our purpose, bodily sensations. This is where we move beyond just cognitive understanding and into a much more intimate form of listening. Jung believed that the psyche is a self-regulating system, always striving for balance, or what he termed wholeness. Your emotions are not random malfunctions. They are signals from this system. The psychologist and trauma expert Peter Levine's work on somatic experiencing beautifully complements this Jungian idea. Levine explains that trauma and repressed emotions are not just in the mind, they get trapped in the body's nervous system. That knot in your stomach when you have to speak in public? That's not just nerves. That is your unconscious speaking to you through the language of physical sensation. That tightness in your chest when you feel criticized? It's a message. To learn this language, you must become a student of your own body. This is a practice, a form of inner mindfulness. The next time a strong emotion arises, resist the immediate urge to analyze it with your thinking mind. Instead, drop your attention into your body. Where do you feel it? Is it a hot flush in your face? A cold stone in your gut? A vibration in your hands? Don't judge it. Don't try to make it go away. Just observe. Be curious. If that tightness in your chest could speak, what would it say? If it had a color, a texture, a shape, what would it be? You might be surprised. The tightness might whisper, "I'm scared of being rejected." The knot in your stomach might scream, "Don't let them see the real you. You'll be humiliated." This is how the shadow communicates. It's not logical, it's visceral. A common misconception is that listening to your gut is some kind of mystical, unreliable process. But from a Jungian perspective, it is one of the most direct lines of communication you have to the vast intelligence of your unconscious. Your gut feelings are data. They are fragments of the story from the basement. By learning to translate these physical sensations, you are no longer just dealing with a vague, overwhelming feeling of anxiety. You are beginning to understand its specific grammar, its unique vocabulary as it speaks through you. You are learning the language of your soul. This is the detective work of the inner world, gathering clues not from a crime scene, but from the felt sense of your own being. Once you've started to acknowledge the basement and learn its symbolic language, you will inevitably encounter the keepers of that realm. This brings us to the third and perhaps most fascinating step: dialogue with your archetypes. Jung proposed that the unconscious is not just a repository of personal memories. It also contains the collective unconscious, a deeper layer inherited by all of humanity, populated by what he called archetypes. Think of archetypes as universal patterns or primordial images, the blueprints for certain types of experiences and behaviors. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the wise old man, the child, these are not just characters in stories, they are active psychic forces within you. Your emotional life is profoundly influenced by which archetypes are dominant in your psyche and which ones are relegated to the shadow. For instance, many of us, in our quest to be responsible, capable adults, develop a strong ruler or caregiver archetype. We are organized, we take care of others, we meet our obligations. But in doing so, we might have banished our inner magical child to the basement, the part of us that is spontaneous, playful, creative, and full of wonder. So, when you feel a sudden, inexplicable bout of resentment or burnout from all your responsibilities, it might not just be stress. It could be the voice of your exiled inner child, banging on the basement door, crying out, "What about me? When is it my turn to play?" Conversely, someone who lives a life of carefree indulgence, dominated by the puer aeternus or eternal youth archetype, might feel a deep, gnawing anxiety about their lack of direction. This is the shadow voice of their undeveloped ruler archetype, warning them of the chaos that comes from a life without structure. Emotional mastery, in this Jungian sense, involves a process of active imagination. This was a technique Jung developed to consciously engage with these inner figures. It's not about hallucinating. It's about having a structured, internal dialogue. You can do this through journaling or quiet contemplation. You could write a letter to your anger. Ask it, who are you? Are you my inner warrior trying to protect a boundary? Or are you my wounded child, lashing out in pain? You could dialogue with your anxiety. Are you the voice of the sage, warning me of a real danger I'm ignoring? Or are you the orphan, terrified of being abandoned? As you engage in this dialogue, you begin to differentiate the voices within you. You realize that I am not my anger. I am the one who can have a conversation with my anger. This is a monumental shift in consciousness. The psychologist Richard Schwartz developed a therapeutic model called internal family systems, IFS, which, while distinct from Jungian analysis, shares this core idea of relating to our internal parts rather than being consumed by them. He sees the psyche as a family, and healing comes from the core self listening to and understanding each part's needs and fears. By personifying your emotions as archetypal figures, you depersonalize the struggle. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are mediating a conversation between powerful, ancient energies within your own soul. You are becoming the wise ruler of your own inner kingdom. This process of inner dialogue naturally leads to the fourth step, integrating the shadow. This is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in all of Jungian psychology. Integrating the shadow does not mean indulging your darkest impulses. It does not mean if you find anger in your shadow, you should become an angry person. It means the exact opposite. It means bringing the energy of the shadow into the light of consciousness, where it can be understood, harnessed, and transformed. Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Gold is not found on the sunlit streets. It is mined from the dark earth. Your greatest strengths are often hidden within the very traits you most despise." Let's go back to the person who overreacted to the joke about being late. In their basement, in their shadow, is a deep fear of inadequacy. They have spent their life trying to be perfect, punctual, and flawless to avoid this feeling. They hate this inadequate part of themselves. But what is the gold in that shadow? The fear of inadequacy, when brought into consciousness, can be transformed. The energy behind it is a powerful drive for competence and excellence. When unconscious, it manifests as brittle defensiveness and anxiety. But when integrated, that same energy becomes conscious diligence, healthy ambition, and the humility to learn and grow. The person who integrates this shadow no longer shatters at a hint of criticism. Instead, they can hear the feedback, and if it's valid, they can say, "You're right, I can work on that." Because their self-worth is no longer tied to being flawless. They have accepted their inadequate part, and in doing so, have paradoxically become more capable. Consider another example, envy. We are taught that envy is a terrible, shameful emotion. We push it down into the shadow. But what is envy, really? As the writer and philosopher Alain de Botton often explores, envy is a powerful clue. It rarely points you toward things you don't actually care about. You don't envy the person with a prize-winning collection of teacups if you don't care about teacups. You envy the friend who publishes a book, or the colleague who gets the promotion you wanted, or the couple with a deeply connected relationship. Your envy, when brought out of the shadow, is a messenger. It's pointing directly at your own unfulfilled desires and undeveloped potentials. It's saying, "This is important to you. This is something you want for yourself." Instead of letting envy curdle into bitterness and resentment in the dark, you can bring it into the light and ask it, "Thank you for showing me what I value. Now, what is one small step I can take toward my own version of that goal?" This is integration. It is alchemy. It's the process of taking the lead of your repressed, negative emotions and transmuting it into the gold of conscious, purposeful living. It's about becoming whole, not just good. The journey so far has been one of turning inward, of excavation and dialogue. But our emotions do not exist in a vacuum. They are shaped and tested in the crucible of the outside world. This brings us to the fifth step, the test of conscious action. All the inner work, the acknowledgement, the listening, the dialoguing, the integrationis preparation. The real mastery is demonstrated when you bring your newfound consciousness back into your life, into your relationships, and into your choices. It's about consciously choosing a different response, one based on your integrated self, not your unconscious programming. Let's return to our metaphorical house. You've been down to the basement. You've met the shadow figures, you've learned their language, and you've begun to integrate their energies. Now, you're back in the brightly lit living room, and a guest, your friend, your partner, your boss, says something that in the past would have sent a jolt of alarm from the basement, causing you to react automatically. But this time is different. Because you've done the work, a small gap opens up between the stimulus and your response. This is the sacred pause. In that pause, you have a choice. The old anger or anxiety may still whisper from the basement, but another voice is now present, the voice of your conscious, integrated self. This is the moment described by psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Imagine the friend again makes that casual joke about you being late. The old, unconscious reaction was a flash of defensive anger. The new, conscious response might be one of several things. You might feel the old sting of not good enough, acknowledge it internally. "Ah, there's my inadequacy shadow." And then choose to respond with gentle humor. "I know. I'm running on my own special time zone today." Or, you might recognize the warrior archetype rising up to defend a boundary, and you could choose to say calmly and without charge, "I know you're just joking, but I actually feel a bit sensitive about that today." Notice the difference. The first reaction is a defense of a fragile ego. The second is an expression of an authentic, integrated self. You are not suppressing the emotion. You are holding it, understanding it, and then choosing how to channel its energy into a constructive, relational action. This is incredibly difficult at first. It feels like building a new muscle. You will fail. You will slip back into old patterns. But every time you manage to find that pause, every time you choose a conscious response, you are strengthening the connection between the basement and the main floor. You are rewiring your own neurology. You are no longer a puppet of fate. You are the co-creator of your reality. Your inner house is no longer a place of haunted rooms and locked doors. It is becoming a unified, integrated home. After months or even years of practicing these steps off, acknowledging the unseen, learning the language of the body, dialoguing with your inner archetypes, integrating the shadow, and testing your consciousness in action, you arrive at the final destination of this particular journey. The sixth step is not an action, but a state of being. It is harvesting the wisdom of wholeness. This is the ultimate goal of Jung's process of individuation, becoming a whole, indivisible individual. It's not about reaching a state of perpetual happiness or eliminating all negative emotions. That's a common and damaging misconception about emotional mastery. Life will always bring pain, loss, and challenge. Wholeness is not the absence of suffering. It is the ability to meet all of life, the light and the dark, with a deep and abiding sense of your own resilient center. The person who has achieved this state no longer lives in fear of their inner basement. They might even leave the door open. They understand that their sadness is not a sign of weakness, but a measure of their capacity to love. They know their anger is not a flaw, but a powerful indicator that a value has been transgressed. They can feel fear without being paralyzed by it, recognizing it as the voice of an ancient survival instinct that deserves respect but not blind obedience. Their emotional life takes on a new quality. It becomes less like a stormy, unpredictable ocean that threatens to drown them, and more like a deep river that flows through them. There are still rapids and calm stretches, but they have built a sturdy boat and are skilled at navigating the current. They are the river, and they are also the one who navigates it. This state of wholeness brings with it a profound sense of inner peace, not because life is peaceful, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You have called home the exiled parts of your soul. The energy that was once consumed by repression, denial, and inner conflict is now liberated for creativity, connection, and purpose. Brené Brown, a researcher whose work on vulnerability and shame powerfully echoes Jungian themes, speaks of wholeheartedness. This is the harvest. It's the ability to engage with the world from a place of worthiness, to dare greatly because you are no longer terrified of the shadow of failure or criticism. You understand that your imperfections are part of your completeness. The central narrative of your life shifts. You no longer see yourself as a flawed person trying to be perfect, but as a whole person learning to be human. You have made the unconscious conscious. You have looked at what you thought was fate and have, with courage and compassion, turned it into destiny. And your house, once divided, is finally one. Every room is accessible, every corner is known, and a quiet light now illuminates even the deepest, most foundational parts of your being. This is the promise of the Jungian path, not a life free from emotion, but a life made rich, deep, and meaningful by the full spectrum of its wisdom.